I think these kinds of analogies will help us to appreciate what the distinctions are. But it's also possible to have a digital wallet in which owners have both possession and control of the assets, where the assets are actually held on the device. And it might look like a USB stick that does cryptographic operations. It might be a piece of software that exists on their laptops or phones. I mean, there are lots of dimensions to this, but if I don't have to invoke a third party when I go to spend it, that's a really powerful difference, and that's something that we can have potentially with digital assets. And we can certainly talk about what it would take to make such systems a reality, and why it's important to have an ecosystem that supports many kinds of custodial and non-custodial services in order to facilitate certain kinds of economic activity. I think we need them all. But as we grapple with these distinctions, I think we need to make sure that we appreciate these subtle differences. And I think this also brings up this mention of universal wallets. I think also brings up this question about what wallets really are. Are they tools? Are they provided by someone? Certainly in Europe, for example, there is this EIDAS proposal in which there is this idea that there will be wallets that are either provided by or registered with the government that people would be able to use for different purposes. Well, that could potentially be really useful, but in order for it to be universal, I think we need to go a step further, right? Because there's this idea of having an accountability between a wallet owner and the issuing authority of an identifier, whether it's a registered wallet or a provided wallet. These kinds of identifiers create accountability relationships that can't be, they cannot be ignored. So I would say that if we wanted to design something that were to be universal, we would need something to avoid an accountability relationship of any particular accountability relationship, because ultimately people would need to be able to use something in the many different contexts in which they operate today. And their accountabilities might change. And we can't just imagine imposing a single accountability relationship on everything that somebody does, for example, and expect it to be universal. I think people will need the ability to have wallets that are just open source hardware, software, standards compliant, but ultimately something that they can control if they want it to be universal. And certainly there's an opportunity to do that as well. And to be clear, I think that there's a space for government registered tools as well as for tools that are not government registered. The only question is about this question that you mentioned, universality. If you want people to be able to do things, they need to be able to have the freedom of flexibility and this acknowledgement that accounting relationships will shade and limit the applicability of a tool.